So I'm gonna be honest, it's so weird seeing myself on camera, and I did have an actual camera to film with, but unfortunately my SD card isn't working at this moment, so that's why we got the phone. Anyway, so this video is how I became Catholic, and just starting off, I was never Catholic before. I was raised Christian, non-denominational Christian, that's what we called it anyway. My parents did bless me with the fundamentals of, Christianity and the Our Father prayer. We learned about angels and things like that. My parents were great parents. They raised us really, really well. I really have to say that. They taught us great morals, how to behave, respect, all the good things that kids nowadays should be learning. No offense to anybody out there. Totally kidding, but half kidding. Anyway, so what happened is later on in my teenage years, I decided that I wanted to find my own church, and my parents had divorced, unfortunately, when I was 17. That was a really hard time for our family, and before my parents divorced, we stopped going to church altogether, like for 3 years, and our friend Carmen had invited us to go to her Catholic church with her. Now, mind you, we were not Catholic, we were not raised Catholic, but we went anyway. My mom thought it would be a good idea for us girls, because we'll have all sisters in our family, no boys. And so she took us, and I took Holy Communion, not knowing, what I was taking, and somehow I ended up taking communion. I don't know how it happened now that I think about it, but I remember me and my siblings all took communion along with Miss Carmen and my mom, I think. And I don't know if it was just because of a certain ceremony, but anyway, that's what happened. We took communion somehow. And I look back now in hindsight and think, oh my God, that's crazy. How did it happen? But it did. And I think about it in hindsight now as an adult, and I think, wow, it's amazing how God was already intervening in my life at that time. So anyway, as I reached 17, 18, I found this church. It was more like a Pentecostal church. It was really speaking to me emotionally. I was going through a very hard time at that time with relationships and my dad and my parents and my sister and another thing. And so I went to that church for about, 18, 19, 20, about 4.5 years or so. I ended up being on their worship team for a little while. And anyway, as I was growing in my faith, I was coming out of this shell. I was always very shy, very fearful. And I wanted to share my faith with people. I wanted people to know God and to feel God's love the way I felt God's love. So whenever people would ask me about my faith, I would always, I don't mean it to be rude, but I would always win the argument. I would always change that person's mind for the most part. And I felt really good about that, because I thought, see, Lord, I'm winning souls for you. I'm so happy. And I was never shaken by anybody. Like anybody that came at me and said, what you believe is wrong, I was so grounded in my faith. It was unbelievable. And I don't mean that to be cocky. I just mean it to be honest. I felt super grounded. I didn't feel like anybody had the right to tell me what they thought. I'm right. I'm correct. You're wrong. And I felt that way. So as I'm, get into adulthood, my 20s, I meet this guy. He's my friend. And he's Catholic and I'm not, and that's fine. Like, I have nothing against Catholic people. It's cool, we just believe a little bit differently. That's what I was thinking at the time. So we meet, and he tells me, hey, what do you believe? And, are you Christian, Catholic? And I tell him, oh, I'm a non-denominational Christian. I go here to this church and blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, oh, cool. So we establish this friendship, and we have a very good connection and be able to talk to each other about religion without fighting about it. I feel like nowadays it's very easy to fight about religion or argue because everybody wants to be right. And I, knowing myself, I like to be right, and that's my pride. And so this guy would just talk to me about his faith, and he was very passionate about it as our friendship developed. And I noticed that, like, he would cross himself before having like a cookie or coffee, and I thought, that's weird. Like, is he just doing that for show? Or does he really mean it? Like, he's really like reverencing the Lord in a way that I've never seen before. And that's really beautiful, because I can tell that he means it. And so we would talk about faith and about heaven and hell. And one day he said, Tate, he would call me Tate. He would say, Tate, do you know where you're going? I'm like, yeah, I know where I'm going. I'm going to heaven. He's like, how do you know? Because I don't know if you are. And that really stumped me. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know if I am going to heaven? I'm a Christian, I believe in God just like you do. So what's the difference here? Just because I don't believe in the Virgin Mary and you do, what's the difference? And he would just talk to me about how the Catholic Church was the first church, how it was founded by Jesus Christ, not by man. And that really hurt me, actually, for a little while. I was really upset with that because I thought, how could he say something like that when I believe in the same principles anyway? So as we start, talking more about religion here and there, he asked me again one time, what are you? Like, Tate, what are you? I'm a non-denominational Christian. That's what I am. No, that is not what you are. What are you? Like, when you tell people you're a non-denominational Christian, what is that to people? And I said, I don't know. I said, I just follow Jesus. I follow Jesus. I'm not religious, but I follow Jesus. I don't follow religion. That's what I am. He's like, that's still not a title. He's like, you need to know who you are when people ask you, because if you don't know who you are, then what's the point? And so, long story short, that really got to me. And for the first time, I kid you not, for the first time in my life, I felt like the ground beneath me was just like, it shook completely. I was never ever, on wobbly ground in my faith. I knew I was right. Nobody ever said anything that made me think twice. I was the one making other people think twice sometimes. And that really shook me, and it bothered me for months, to the point where I was praying for about 3 months, like, God, I feel a lot of confusion, and I know confusion is not of you, and I'm scared because I've grown up this way. I've been to so many churches, like I can't even tell you, probably over 10 maybe. I've been to a lot of churches, and I was very scared. Like, this is the way I've grown up. Don't tell me, God, that what I've grown up with is wrong. Don't tell me that I'm wrong. And that was my pride speaking. So as we start wrapping up now, he says, hey, you want to go to confession? I said, yeah, I do want to go to confession. I said, I have some things that I'd like to confess, and I think it'd be good for me. I'm all about, being honest and transparent. I'm not, not okay with that. So sure, let's do it. So I wrote out my sins on a book that I had, and I was determined to tell the priest what they were, and I was determined to leave if the priest wanted me to leave, because I had a feeling I wasn't supposed to be there anyway because I wasn't Catholic. So I go into church, and I'm wearing a dress that's a little too clingy, a little too short. I have a big bottom. And my friend even told me, he's like, next time maybe wear something a little different. But at the time, I didn't really understand modesty. I was just trying to look pretty, and that's a whole different video for a whole other time. Anyway, I go into the confessional, and I get on my knees, and I say, Father, I said, I would like to confess my sins. And he says, are you Catholic? And I said, no, I'm not. I said, but with all due respect, I'll leave if you want me to. And I was honestly, in my mind, I was gonna cry if he did not let me stay, because I just was looking for answers. And to my surprise and shock, he said, no. Wait here, I want to know why you're here. This is very interesting. And I said, okay. So I sat down. I'm like, all right, maybe this is okay then. And so we got in a conversation about faith, and I told him why I was there, that I was very confused and very scared, and I didn't know why I felt this way. And to get to the point of it all, the questions I was praying to God for those 3 months about the Virgin Mary, church, different questions I had specifically to God. I hadn't shared this with anybody. It was crazy. In our conversation, all of a sudden the priest started answering all those questions that I was praying to God about. And I hadn't even asked the priest one question yet. Does that make sense? I had chills all over my arms, over my body. I felt such a deep reverence and fear of the Lord in that confessional. I was scared, but I felt clarity at the same time. Like, all that confusion and that unrest went away. And he shared with me so many things about the Catholic Church that people have had wrong. And I'll share that in another video. And it was beautiful for me, because growing up in different Christian churches, they would say, never marry a Catholic man. Don't become Catholic. They are wrong. They do all this worship to false idols and blah, 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 blah. And at one point in my life, when I was a young adult, a pastor of mine was gossiping about Catholics. And I thought, wait a minute, this doesn't add up. This doesn't feel right with my spirit, because you're teaching us not to slander and gossip about people, and you're actually doing that about Catholics. So how's that right? Where's the love? You know, we are brother and sister. We may not be in unity because we don't believe the same, but those are kind of like brothers and sisters in Christ. So it didn't register with me. That was weird. So anyway, I left that confessional, and I did confess my sins. I didn't get absolution because I wasn't Catholic, but I did want to confess my sins. And he told me, he said, hey, if you're interested, we have confirmation classes for adults, and if you would like to take them, or just register just to hear about what the classes are about, you don't have to commit to being Catholic, but it'll help you understand more knowledge, you know, feel free to do so. So that was what I was gonna do. And to get into the class, here's the thing. I needed my baptism certificate, a copy, and I did not have it. I was baptized when I was 20, and I didn't have it. So I contacted the last church I went to. They didn't have it. And I honestly told God, I said, Lord, I feel like you want me to go to the Catholic Church. I don't know why, but if I don't get this, they said I cannot enter that class or become Catholic if I don't have my birth certificate. So I prayed to God. I said, this is my last straw, Lord. My mom tried to look for it. She couldn't find it. By the grace of God, the pastor's wife found my baptism certificate on her home computer somehow. I snatched that certificate off a Facebook message because she sent it to me over Facebook. I turned it in, and that is what started my journey to becoming Catholic. All I want to say is no hard feelings, no judgment, no hate towards anybody that's a non-denominational Christian, a Pentecostal Christian, whatever. No hate at all in this video. I'm just honestly sharing this video because I understand now, and I realize that there's more to the faith of Christianity than what we've been taught. And everything that we've been told from people or the world that Catholics believe certain things, it's not true. And unfortunately, are there some Catholics not, you know, living their life, their faith the way they should, and worshiping things as if they're idols? Yeah. And as Catholics, we need to stop that, because we're not called to worship the Virgin Mary as an idol. We're called to, of course, honor her and bless her, because she's God's mother and she's our mother, our spiritual mother, our grandmother, if you think about it. But we're supposed to worship Jesus. So that'll be for another video, but that's how I became Catholic. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me, whatever you'd like. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. It's pretty lengthy, but nonetheless, I thought it'd be cool to put out there. So God bless you all. I love you all sincerely. God bless everybody.